All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the continuation of our 17th season of the Summer Gazebo Readings. We have a great lineup tonight, and we're lined up with a really nice evening. I think we have a smaller crowd than we would expect because everybody, I think, got scared away by the storm. But in fact, it's beautiful here. Nice breeze. All right, so we're going to get started. Everybody should have a program that has the everybody's bios on it. We don't do a big long reading of the bios. If you're not on our email list, please see the ladies in the back and make sure that you're on our email list. If you sign up for the email list here for the gazebo, you'll only get poetry-related emails. We won't give you all of the others unless you want it. You can put that you want from everybody, all the library emails. On the back of the program, we have our sponsors, our premium sponsors, and our sponsors and our program patrons. We thank everybody for their donations. It's a wonderful, very generous of everybody, and we do really appreciate it. And lastly, everybody should have not only a program, but you should also have a flyer of the Word, which is a major event. It's going to be using the entire green. Paula Kursk is putting it together. It looks really exciting. It's going to be an all-day poetry and literature and other arts event, and use this entire facility. So we're really excited by that. So as I said, we have 5 wonderful readers, and unfortunately in August we start to have a sun that ducks down too quickly. So we're going to start right away with Diana Poulos-Lutz.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you for my fellow co-features as well, and for everyone else that came out on this unpredictable weather day. So because it's so hot in summer and it's very humid today, right? We could feel the stickiness. I'm going to start off with a poem about heat. It's called Heat, and these poems today will be from my new book, I Walk On. Heat. It's in the sweltering heat that we're melted into surrender. Nothing is more real than the sound of August insects or the way the late summer blooms rest in their glory. The grace of the universe is the only thing that is real here. In awakened seconds of labored breathing in this humid air, everything grows, and every being also knows stillness. What else is real but this? No pain or fear or illusion as there is within nearby streets. Tears are real, but dry so fast out here. Mixing with sweat, human emotion reaches a momentary death, suspended in this air. It's this swelter that I loathe and need at the same time. And the reluctance of bathing in this place morphs into gratitude. Okay, so we often think of food stands when we think of summer, right? New York food stands, Long Island food stands. So this next poem is called A Food Stand Poet. Tell me everything you know about him, I pleaded in my mind to the universe. My great-grandfather, who I never met, owned a hot dog stand in Spanish Harlem. They said his tears flowed, talking philosophy and higher ideas on streets. This is what I heard. I picture him in my mind, placing one hand on a cold metal handle of a food stand for balance of body and mind, and his other sometimes waving with words. He must have also owned a poet's heart, for he stood tall and recited his poem to the president of Cyprus, his home country, in New York at some fancy dinner. I have a black and white photo of this event in the same city as his food stand. And though I'm born here with degrees and a different kind of job, I'm still that immigrant on the street corner talking philosophy and higher ideas, too humble to think myself any different than a poet who speaks another language, who feels she came from somewhere foreign, who now stands tall when reciting poems, knowing that the truest songs of the heart are the most worthy sounds of all, that this is the breath of life. Would you like some toppings on your hot dog? So I'm jumping to one more food-themed poem, and it's about pizza, right? What New Yorker can't relate to memories with pizza? It's called The Truth About Pizza. The truth is, it's hard to remember any condition of life without a memory of pizza. Crowded, dirty, old Penn Station piping hot pizza with striking hunger enhancing its taste, each and every bite, feeling lost in the crowd but found in the warm cheese. Dollar pizza somewhere else in Manhattan, worth every penny, but on a night that became too cold, too heavy to wear. A suburban neighborhood pizza box full of possibility, propped open on a cheap table in a worn, empty living room, holding a slice while looking at wonder-filled walls of potential after a new move. Cut up pizza in little bite-sized squares, lost in new motherhood, with a stroller-age son and those little pieces of goodness, the only sure things that made sense. The local pizza employee constantly considerate, bringing home a box of 2 specialty slices with a dash of kindness after a day of work, and another night as a single kind of mom, a budget for steakhouse meals not necessary for a beautiful life. And then the kind of pizza you allow yourself to make your own. Melting caramelized onions on the stove, filling your home with the spirit of life, fresh, juicy tomatoes that remind you that you're still alive. Olive oil that hugs your heart on a thin pita bread that will reckon your breath to lightness, baked in the oven of gratitude and blessings on the most silent and meditative of nights. This is how I'm reminded to make my own pizza. Okay, another summer themed poem, and it's called A Summer Walk with Dolphins. It's a steamy, humid morning at a favorite stretch of beach, and I begin a walk with heavy camera, no shoes, tired eyes, messy hair, a tote bag for collecting sea glass and other treasures. Walking along the water's edge, I see fishermen getting ready to try their luck and skill, beach lovers claiming a spot in the sand early on, and then other long-distance walkers too. A familiar walker spots me and asks, "Hey, camera girl, did you hear? There were whales here yesterday." "No," I say, "I wasn't here, but how wonderful." I then point as if I've never seen them before. "Look out there, dolphins." The heavy camera is lifted, and after a few clicks, I find myself smiling, watching the pod jumping in and out of the water. I keep walking, full of spirit, knowing my feet are in the same water as these amazing creatures. As expected, they disappear, and I still have some miles to explore, as do the others. Who knows what else I'll see this morning, but I do know this, that these summer beach walks are nothing less than a soft rally cry, as I like to think for so many other walkers as well. I fancy that they are a proclamation on the hottest of days and the heaviest of air on the island that we have not given up on what it means to meet the fullness of life. And I admit that sometimes I believe that the small talk between walkers is not really small at all. Okay, and I chose a song about rain since we weren't sure if this was going to be rained out. And it's called When the Rain Breaks. The universe never promised us love or affection outside ourselves, and it promises something else. The occasional rain on warm evenings, or the breeze that carries peace. On clearer days, we're offered the stars that reflect shimmers of hope and wishes at night. And as the water falls, there are creatures scurrying about, and all the mysteries that happen beneath the sea or deep in the woods. And when the rain breaks or the tears stop, some kind of magic happens in this moment in time, a special kind of awareness and aliveness within, the ability to see and hear presence within the heart, to feel the urgency of change and the purpose of seasons. Can you hear the groundhog softly scurrying over damp leaves with drying raindrops on its fur, quietly breaking the silence? Your heart can do the same. Okay, and this last one is a poem about September, since we're headed there, and I know whoever works in a school doesn't want to hear that. But I'm reading it nonetheless. Walking into September, I thought fall was coming on this September day, but the noon sand told my feet otherwise, and the hot tub ocean water told me another story. The ghost crab peered out of his hole, and although it was so silent and so still, caught in my gaze, I knew what it would say. The warmth wasn't done, and neither would I. For who knows how many seasons we have, or how many days we can feel the waves crash upon us. This day has taught me that I'm not done either, not finished with the warmth or the in-betweenness of changing seasons. How grateful I was to be tired from miles of sun and beach today, for the undoneness of being.
All right. Diana Poulos-Lutz. All right, we're going to keep it going with a good friend of the Gazebo and good friend of our poetry series here in Oceanside Library, both online and in person. So ladies and gentlemen, Valerie Griggs. See if I get the right height for you. All right.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. All right, it's nice to see everybody. Got a nice evening. I'd like to dedicate this reading to my brother Christopher, who passed away July 22nd. I'm going to start with some poems from my book, Listen and Leap. Distinction. Give me the beautiful geometry of self-sufficiency. Let tangents and intersections prove inequalities and immutable similarities. Plot the coordinates of archetypal symbols between magical objects and envy. Deduce the line of truth. Subtract the perspective from the new paradigm, that placeholder of no value, and scramble imaginary numbers to find the infinite plane and your fixed point that nothing else can occupy. Suomi sonnet, and Suomi is Finland. Laughter and footsteps mingle in breezes that carry smoked fish, lemon dill, and coffee. Sunshine, butterflies, and birds give a thrill to the stately garden's gravel path and shady stillness. More than a sauna can open the pores, eyes open to the delights of commerce and leisurely life, swarming around an orchestra's music, freely pouring from the gazebo outside Copley. What exquisite play for a people whose home was rescued from the pitch and stones of Sweden and Russia, who exploited Hitler and carried on after the Winter War. Fill a cup with cloudberries and promenade to Sibelius's symphony along Helsinki's Esplanade. Resistance. I'm hollowed out by the psyche keepers, the body watchers, and I still don't quite fit into the furrows plowed by the earth managers. Their techno myths and surveillance stunts have only sharpened my eyes. I can pick up their existential codes. I pretend I'm too vain and shallow like a postmodern pimpernel to notice their machinations. It's the power of the child who's being deliberately distracted, even lured away from the bright, shiny, priceless thing. I will get my hands on it and put it in my mouth before they can stop me. Cosmology. Of course, we're not alone in the universe. Worlds spinning and circling, never touching. And life on those worlds, the biology, the tech, the architecture, light years beyond Disney. Wouldn't you be fit to burst with excitement if someone from out there made contact? You know, scientists spend millions listening and waiting. Space travel, it's going commercial. People plan to live on Mars or the moon to escape our dying planet. Not to mention the theory that the images carved in Egyptian temples, in Asian cliff walls, and the stone gods in the lost jungle cities are actually portraits of extraterrestrials. So you'll understand when I say, treat me like an alien. Be awed by my life form. Respect the world I come from. Show interest in it. Learn from me as you would from that star child who stops your car while you drive that dark 2-lane country road sandwiched between farms and cornfields. So I found out that June was National Cheese Month. Yay, cheese, right? We love cheese. So a friend of mine from college, we challenged each other to write a tritina in honor of Cheese Month. And my poem is called Small Plate. A sunny day in June, soft and clear blue, ends with a slice of moon in a low falling night sky. As the edgy stars spread themselves above, I muse about the moon, which is often yellow. Why not think it was made of cheese? Marbled, white, or yellow? My ancestor, in the dark night, maybe a little hungry for a slice of something for her small plate. Aches from the day spread from back to knees. Heavenly ripened cheese, carefully spread on her hard, home-baked bread. Salty wedge, creamy slice to stay the pangs in her stomach. No cheese left? She sees the yellow orb, and then a full plate of cheese, white slice, yellow wedge, or dreamy spread. Who has had it easy? Bring your life to a story, you daughters of missing men. Pink gray storm clouds look down on a wilting sun with tenderness that splits stones. Tears collect beneath bended knees, and the truth spills over. This is the last time. The power of one life to uproot and break through anguish, to dig up hard, fallow ground, is free to anyone. See it all as golden, the sweet, the strange. Love is waiting, watching. It's all because of death. Life has to happen now. This next poem, I am honored to say, won first place in the NCPLS 2023 poetry contest. Yay. This is called Landscapes. My heart breaks with the green of it. Hills, meadows, stretches of farmland. Like driving through central Pennsylvania or the Grampian Mountains. Green peaks floating above the valley. Fairy tale forests. All of us, all the time, on every landmass, we carve out a clearing in the wild, wrestle the woods for a manageable spot, rough and alive, where we can live. The green of it is my life. Every time I see open green land rolling under blue sky, breathing beneath the sun, my heart breaks with it all. There, this side of afterwards, are clues to the untamed, the undomesticated. Longing for it never stops. We painted Photograph it, color our houses with it, design gardens, front yards, backyards, ergo enviro, office spaces. We submerge ourselves in the green of it, the green of life, despite the ceaseless tempests. And then last poem from the book is called, where'd you go? Seen and Unseen. Its ornate oars, heavy and smooth, dissolved the instant they stroke the sea. The boat has turned into a dragon. The seasoned rudder, tried and true, abandoned ship and sank into the deep. The boat has turned into a dragon. Sails, riggings, anchor, each crumbled like dust as land slipped out of sight. The boat has turned into a dragon. All charts and instruments, fine-tuned, precise, blew away with the first strong wind. The boat has turned into a dragon. Thank you.
Valerie Griggs. Okay, our next reader first came to us as an Oceansider. Then she moved, but once I was lost, but now I'm found. We have her back. Vicki Iorio.
Oh, thank you. I didn't grow any.
Okay, I don't know, maybe the Florida sunshine.
Hi, it's good to be back. I'm not going away again. So this is it. All right. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Kiwanis. My first poem's about my one and only trip to a Hollywood restaurant. Musso and Frank Grill. The waiter tells us we are sitting at the Rolling Stones table. The Oscars are being presented across the street. While I am eating shrimp cocktail with my grandnephew, Will Smith is slapping Chris Rock. The slap heard round the world, if only for a little while. Our waiter looks a little bit like Kevin Spacey, a little skeevy in his maroon tuxedo. After a few cocktails and my sachet to the powder room, he starts looking pretty good. I could grab him along with my baked potato if it weren't for my 14-year-old grandnephew. Our waiter, let's call him Kevin, tells me he's from Iowa. Oh, the stories I could tell him about my time in the cornfields. While my grandnephew eats his ice cream sundae, Kevin gives me a private tour of the restaurant's private room. Is sex on the menu? Tipsy, I tell Kevin I'm sliding off my pants to get closer to mixed essence. His eyes, he runs to get me another dirty martini. We watch Oscar news on my iPhone. We see the slap. A television star at the bar is tweeting about the slap. We are the world. Kevin slips me his number with the check. I slip him too much tip. My grandnephew pours me into the Uber and he tells me I snore all the way home. So the pandemic. So I had choices, either tons of potato chips or the Peloton. I chose the Peloton. Pelicans and Pelotons. Casting off my bra on my Peloton bike. Spin class for one. Interactive. Dripping sweat. Liters of my salt. Chill chest back floor. I am my own Dead Sea, floating in an endorphin-induced euphoria. Poems flash in my head during the connect of cadence, resistance, and output. The science of the ride led by fitness monsters. I will never have those abs, that butt, those upper arms. Peloton, in the land of pelicans. That string bikini will never be part of my wardrobe. Just string theory logic. A gift from my gifted daughter on my Medicare birthday. Her way to buy me time before the pelicans swoop down to feed off me. So I always read this to Tony. It's for Tony. It's called the Gazebo for Tony Iorio. There is a revival in my town every Monday night from June to August at my Gazebo. Monday nights in Oceanside, the old Christian hook hooks the crowd with words while little boys of summer play baseball across the fields in a Norman Rockwell idol. Their cheers are sedated by the sprites and fairies that flit by the green, disguised as the summer breeze. Tinkerbell and dragonflies leave a dusting of inspiration. Emily Dickinson comes out of her hot attic to sit among us. America awakes and sings. There is a rapping, a seance of syntax. The coma closet opens. Slam dunked by poetry Viagra. Sleeping Beauty awakes from her long winter nap. Hello, Earthlings! Hello, Gazebo! Thank you, Tony. Thank you, wordsmiths. The treatment was a success. Poetry lives. So Jones Beach has always been my place of peace. And this is Jones Beach, 1969. Skin infused with salt, French fries, copper tone with a hint of vanilla. Our tongues make a soft swirl journey of chocolate custard, bitterness that flowers atop a waffle cup. The Rolling Stones' Mother's Little Helper blasts from transistor radios. There is a war somewhere, but not here. We see the occasional freighter on the horizon, a sighting of sailors in dress whites on the boardwalk. That summer, there is so much to think about. Men on the moon, the Mets, Manson. At Woodstock, we all get skin infections, but being Americans, we have access to antibiotics. God bless the good old USA. Some of us take the red pills, while some of us, like me, pretend to swallow. When school starts, I iron my hair Joni Mitchell straight, blossom into a hippie, secretly crave the safety of my bedroom and the pictures of Ringo tapped on my pink walls. And speaking of Ringo, I thought Ringo Starr would marry me. After Ringo and Maureen divorced, I thought I was a shoo-in. He would pick me out of a multitude of girls and wait for me to grow up. When I was in London, I saw Ringo drive an Aston Martin on Oxford Street. He didn't stop for a chubby college girl from Levittown, but went for a Bond girl. I thought Ringo Starr would marry me. Like Graham Nash singing Our House to Joni Mitchell, Ringo would sing to me about octopi and yellow submarines. When he sang with a little help from my friends, he would give me a knowing wink. The last time I saw Ringo was in a Long Island theater in the Round. Ringo was in an all-star band. My husband was having an affair, but we had tickets, so we went. On his way to the stage, Ringo stopped by my aisle seat, gave my soon-to-be ex a dirty look, and squeezed my hands. His puppy dog eyes gazed into mine, and I knew it was love. So my mom's gone, but I can see her here. She used to love coming here. She'd smile. So this is for her. What is the frequency? My mother always knew what was happening before the rest of us did. She sat in the carport with her transistor radio. The blackout of 1965? No mystery. My mother informed the neighborhood it was a power failure, not the Russians. When 9/11 happened on that beautiful fall day, the radio told my mother the news when the cell towers cut out. Before the latest hurricane, I put fresh batteries in my mother's transistor and followed the monster's path to my door. Now, I need to know what batteries to put in my mother's transistor to tell her the news I have. The cat died. She was right about the neighbors. Trump still won't give up the ghost. At the end, she couldn't hear the radio announcers. She pressed the speaker to her ear. Traces of her pancake makeup are still on the radio's plastic cover. In the lonely hours, I turn the dials on her transistor radio. I get stations from far away. Some night, when the stars are on fire, and there is a blood moon, a blue moon, a harvest moon, a full moon, I will reach her and tell her my news. I'm just ending with this one. Crossing over. I mean, I might look normal, but I'm not. Just like, you know. Wire down on 6th Avenue. Can't get across the street where Rite Aid keeps my antidepressants. I stay in my apartment on hot weekends with my medicated cocktails. I picked up Moby Dick again, my college copy, dead fish, stiff and yellow. My college lover's tongue tasted like peppermints. His major was animal husbandry. He became a dairy farmer in upstate New York. I could have been the wife of a dairy farmer. Last week, when I went to the fortune teller, she gave me back my money, closed my palm, and made the sign of the cross. I can't shake off the feeling that zombies are following me. It's the antidepressants, my therapist says. She says the new dosage will take some time to kick in. If I could get across 6th Avenue, I could start the dosage. But the wire is too big for the chronically depressed to cross over. Thank you.
The one and only Vicki Iorio. All right, we've been very, very lucky here at the Gazebo to host a number of poets laureate. We have with us tonight Gail Teller, a former Nassau County Poet Laureate. We have with us our current Nassau County Poet Laureate, Paula Kersey. And I will remind everybody again, October 14th, start drilling that in your head. Our first year, I think our third week, we had a woman who went on and is now currently the United States Poet Laureate, Ada Limon, read from here. But the next former Poet Laureate that I'm going to bring up was essential to the creation of this 17 years ago. Many of you know the story. I was a couple of weeks away. I had already announced we were going to do 13 weeks, 4 readers a week. And I had like 5 people signed up for the entire summer. Drove out to Southampton and got to sit next to our next reader, who's from East Rockaway, and he said, "Yeah, I can read, and I'll get some other people to read." And sure enough, he did, and he helped us fill up that first season 17 years ago. So it is always a pleasure to call him up, ladies and gentlemen. Our former Nassau County Poet Laureate, Peter Dugan.
Close enough. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Kiwanis. 17 years. Jeez. Vicki, I got a poem for you. Not that one. No. Remember, we have to keep it. This is PG-13. All right, here it is. Oops. Vanished. She glared at me, flashed her ladybug almond eyes, and purred. Fucked a while. All right, that's the only one you're gonna hear. Her voice trailed off, the sound of a spurned lover. She shook her head and continued. I need a couple of hits of Colombian catnip to get me through days like these. She lit up a bowl, sucked it in, held her breath, and let out a billow of smoke. Her eyes were unfocused, with a blank, frigid stare and a silence, the kind of silence that a clap of thunder cannot break. She then rattled off in a hazy stream of consciousness. Where will we go? Where will we meet? We are the members of a lost tribe. We gather to raise our voices in contempt at being condemned to the cultural gulag created by unintended consequences of living the American dream. Censored and censured by the Neolithic minds of the times, we shout out against willful ignorance and the outright hypocrisy of those that malinger in the malaise and mayonnaise of mediocrity. We are the untamed and unchained barbaric bohemian bards of our times, wild and primal, raw and spontaneous. We are the illegitimate feral offspring of the beats, hemmed in by the and stifled by the dead-end existence spawned by father time and circumstance, and a mother of necessity and nature. She stopped, took another hit, and without exhaling sputtered, maybe we should just shuffle and saunter down the side streets and alleys of town. Smoke filled the room when the cloud cleared. She was gone, disappeared, and the door left open to the black of night. That was her when we got kicked out of the Wild Child. All right, let's see. Save that one for later. I'm reading from a book that just got published. It's my, I guess, a greatest hits poetry. We were young rebels, acting cool, hanging out all hours of the night, tired of being tame. We went wild, letting ourselves loose on the streets, dancing under the neon lights and singing our songs to the stars. But we discovered other stars in the pulsing music of cool sounds blowing loud, heavy, and light in the steam of a hot summer night, grooving to the beat of the streets, listening to the call of the wild. We were set free and born to be wild, a brand new age of rock and roll stars riding the big wave down the streets. We were young Turks, the kids of cool, the banished children of the night, living for the dark, cursing the light. But like suicidal moths drawn to firelight, we pushed our limits and went wild, out of control. We were out all night and cruising beneath the stars, living and dying in the act of being cool, with no escape from stress on the streets. Consumed by the heat of the street, we burned to break away and light up a joint or guzzle a crisp, cool beer, chase it down with some wild turkey, sending us off to the stars in our explorations of the night. We were lost souls in an endless night, wandering in the dark with no stars or signs to guide us out on the streets. We craved for just a spark of light to shine down on our world gone wild, chilled by the obsession of being cool. We were the kings and queens of cool nights, the puppet figures of the wild streets, eclipsed by the starlight, forever out of reach. That was a sestina. Let's see what I got. All right, Here's I don't know, this is my howl. Well, this is what Monk used to say was my howl. Shadows of suburbia. This is a montage of snapshots, two-dimensional images lacking depth, pop stars and politicians, athletes and entertainers, false gods and goddesses, framed in the chalk silhouette of a 50-inch television set held in place by weight and gravity. It is a stream of consciousness that blurs the line between art and entertainment, echoing the etchings and scribbled graffiti scrawled on the building's walls. We're playing God is painted in black and white, red and blue, sometimes colored green, or covered with an aura of substance, without substance, excuse me. Reality complete, the choreography and script. This is about a wild-eyed blank stare planted on the American dream, weaned and preened, bigger, better, faster, stronger, with its wrinkle-free, smooth skin injected and perfected by Botox, streamlined and fat-free. It is a poem that ends in an ellipsis, a self-perpetuating pantoum of circular logic and lifestyle, lacking any punctuation, but packed with a collection of love and memories, an enduring stroke clinging to life with its roots twisted around a slab of granite. This is a comedy, tragedy, and drama rolled into one, a patchwork of shade, shadow, and sun, angst and ambiguity, raw, flawed, and unpolished. The game that cannot be named is being played, eking out existence one day at a time. It's a story of a mutant middle class, black, white, yellow, and brown, blue-collar workers mixed with the white-collar crowd, a culture spawned in a petri dish, the descendants of the first urban refugees to homestead the promised land, and subsequently programmed with chronic attention deficit disorder to forget the squalor and suffering. It's all a reflexive response, a ritual of existence, pestilence, and death. The stripped shells, carcasses of Lincolns and caddies at the corner of Fifth Avenue and 51st Street. This is a pebble making a splash in the puddle of mankind. The ripples become waves crashing on the beach. Human overflow in a mass exodus from eddies, pools, alcoves, niches, and side streets, past factories and apartments, buildings and junkyards, flooding the front lawns and backyards, spilling over picket fences and rows of hedges, reaching the heights of spires and steeples of churches and synagogues. The towering tombstones and giant mausoleums cast shadows under the glow of the nightlight. A big, juicy slice of orange swirling, twirling, spiraling around and anchored in the clouds, hanging over the skyline. It is an eternal moment of paradise, cut short by the haunting wails of a saxophone down in the dark as paw prints dance across the carpet and a cloud of pigeons begins to flap and flutter, while soccer moms and little league dads drive home in SUVs and minivans. They cling to the belief that their invincibility and immortality. This is the stain of original sin on their souls, condemned to dangle between heaven and earth, blinded by the reflection and refraction of halogen streetlights on a cul-de-sac off a main street. It is no longer about pointing fingers and throwing stones. It's about seeing things the way they are and writing poems. That was a cento. There's a whole bunch of lines from my other poems. All right. Indiron read this poem about Walt Whitman last week, and well, here's mine. The Great Pilgrim. Operating on instinct rather than intellect, I pulled up to the gas pump in need of coffee as much as my car needs fuel. A casualty of late night and early morning, I linger in the misty twilight of dreams and reality as I saunter toward the entrance of the 24-hour convenience store. Parked on the side, I notice an old biker readying his motorcycle for the day's travel. I recognize him immediately. A hometown boy, born and bred on Long Island, matured in Brooklyn, and now he sleeps in New Jersey. He's a sojourner, who has crisscrossed the country countless times, chronicling and cataloging the people, places, and things he's encountered, from New York to San Francisco, Daytona to Sturgis, Chicago to New Orleans, Boston to Los Angeles, the big cities, the small towns, and all the villages, hamlets, and whistle stops found in between. To some, he's an eccentric renegade filled with purposeless wanderlust. As for myself and others, he's a maverick, a rebel, a hero who celebrates his freedom. He's an all-American, and he is ageless, spry for his years, rough-hewn with lean, wiry frame. His face taut like rough-weathered leather beneath long gray beard, creased with the lines of many miles and many years. He's dressed in tan deerskin duster with fringes and faded blue jeans. On his head, he wears a stars and stripes bandana to keep his bushy silver white hair in place. His bike is an expression of himself, dusty but not dirty, dirty from the road. The engine, a big V-twin, since mounted on a monoshock soft-tail frame with a fat bob gas tank and a teardrop fenders painted electric blue and highlighted with red and white pinstripes. A cool, rigid look, fine-tuned by a low-slung saddle seat with a passenger pad and an old worn rucksack tied to the small sissy bar. They twist and shout, but they don't think, oh, wrong page. The pullback handlebars and wide glide front end that rolls on chrome spoke wheels gives the impression of constant motion. It has retro classic style for a long, easy ride. Standing still, it beckons for the open road. It is the machine to epitomize the power and prestige of the American dream. He mounts the bike, starts it up, and roars toward the open road. A resounding thunder shatters the silence of the new morning. Oh. The fringes of his jacket gives the appearance of wings, an eagle gliding on the wind. Walt Whitman rides a Harley Davidson. All right, I'm gonna cut short and let George, because it's getting dark up here and I can hardly read.
Peter Dugan. Yeah, we don't know when these lights are timed to come on. Hopefully they come on at 8 o'clock, but who knows? All right, and I'll ask George if he wants me to hold the flashlight up, I will. We've done that before we had electricity here. So our next reader doesn't need any introduction. If any of you who know anything about poetry on Long Island, he is the first Suffolk County Poet Laureate. He's the Dean of Poetry on Long Island. He's a great friend of the Gazebo. He's a great friend to poetry internationally. Ladies and gentlemen, George Wallace.
That's right for Tony. I have Reno for putting this together again. I'll confide in you that as the man that goes over and above in all situations, he even gave me his chair, the chair of R.C. Tony's.
Something is wrong with the sound.
I can see clearly. I have a couple of these books in the back. It's my 40th collection of poetry. Anything you purchase will go to the Kiwanis Club tonight. 100%. I'll just give a little advertisement that September 7th, Deb Hauser's place at Jack Jack's, we're going to be having 33 years worth of Long Island Quarterly poets, reading poets who have predeceased us over the years. So they're going to be reading their own poetry. There's poems from people like Maxwell Wheat, David Ignato, Louis Simpson. It's going to be a massive, massive, beautiful production. So I encourage you to come by. all we know, this is paradise. What if apples were still apples? Snakes, still snakes. We're all still living in paradise. Unlike Peter's poem, where we're all stained by original sin. What if Eve is in the summer of her years, running with the antelope, thighs supple and alert, her face tan? Thank you. Gotta peruse. What if nobody has had to crawl on their belly on account of some fairy tale crime? Adam lies blameless in a grove of ripe pears, admiring Eve's gate, admiring how evening light arrives in Eden on hushed wings to remind him of love's caresses. No temptation, no shame, just a curious bird singing in sweet ellipses, singing with the trees, a song with no words about God, about summer, about sunlight and waterfalls, a simple song about how perfectly a pear fits in Adam's hand, equally perfect in Eve's hand. And how generously its juices spill onto his chin and hands and chest, almost as if it was by design, singing how we are all of us two halves of a single fruit hanging from a paradise tree. The year was 1956. How High the Moon was playing. I have to preface this by saying that Charlie Parker, as a bebop musician, took a standard tune, How High the Moon, and he turned it inside out, as the bebop musicians did. Made his theme song, How High the Moon. So that's the topic of this song. The year was 1956. How High the Moon was playing on the radio. Charlie Parker was dead a year. Kansas City was hotter than Alabama in August. Emmett Till, Rosa Parks, need I say more? Jim Crow's conveyor belt was cranking. White America was on top, and I was back in town. Jimmy Lanson and me cracked open a bottle of bourbon. We were traveling together at the time. He was playing the cornet, and I was a barrel house boy, and the bourbon made our brains go boom. I was 17. I never really read the news. You never really had to read the news in those days. Yeah, you never really unpacked your bags in any town. You just kept on moving. And Kansas City was my hometown. Yeah, gift of oblivion in the pit of funny. And I promised Jimmy Lanson right there I would write a poem about that night. But I never did. And America is a hot air balloon flying over Oz. America is a bag of shit twice as heavy as air. We drank till 2. We threw lies at each other like dynamite. We drank to Yardbird and the Revolution, and we kept on drinking till the Kansas City Blues went away. The next morning, the bus to St. Louis was late, but we got in on time, and we rode it out of town. And that was that. 1956, another year on the road to nowhere. But every time I hear that song, How High the Moon on the radio, I think of Jimmy Lansing and me making it in America with, nothing to lose. Nothing much changes in the road. The road just keeps on rolling. So Here's to you, Jimmy Lancey, wherever you are. Here's that poem I promised you back in 1956, but never wrote. My glass is half empty without you in it. I don't know if you know Tom Gore from the Boston Over Beatniks, but I've been doing an album of songs from adapted from the poems, and I said, Tommy, got anything for me? He said, I have a song that just music, instrumental that I did with the bass player for Paul Simon from Graceland. And you want that? And I said, are you kidding me? So I wrote this poem for that. Everybody's a flower. In the beginning, everyone was a flower and had their moment in the sun. They thought things would stay that way forever, but they don't, do they? Seasons change. Winter comes. To survive is to go hard in the heart. To survive is to go mean and blind too. To cuddle up in ashes and overcoats and play dead to the body. To endure, rock hard to the elements. Well, the gods quarrel with each other and make plans, and we hunker down in our homes and hovels. We hunker down in our factories, our offices, our laboratories, our grease traps, our garbage cans, all the hellholes of material regret. And we wait. But then out comes spring. Out comes spring. We made it. Office workers are glad. Sales girls are glad. Everything shines like plate glass windows. School children laugh and misbehave. Everything is liquid and cool again. The entire world belongs to us. We throw open our hearts. We take a deep breath. Hey, everybody, shrug off your stale, meager existences. Give your bodies back to the sun. The gods haven't forgotten us after all. Everyone is a flower. Everybody's a flower. Everyone's a flower. Thank you. I got one more for you. All right, Emma Goldwyn. Did anybody ever tell you dance like nobody's watching? If you're a bad dancer and you don't want to get up and dance in front of people, they say, well, just dance like nobody's watching. Yeah, I've seen a lot of heads going like this. There wasn't a dancer that they're going like, what are you talking about? Never had anybody tell me that. Well, I was told that quite a bit as a young man. But I also read Emma Goldwyn, who famously said, if this is not my revolution, if I can't dance, it's not my revolution. Emma Goldwyn. And I had trouble putting those two things together. Because I'm like, well, it's not if I can't dance, not my revolution, but dance like it. And then I remember, you know, in 1969 or whatever the year was, Kent State, where the whole world's watching, the whole world's watching. I thought, well, it's just the opposite. Dance like everybody's watching. Dance like the whole world is watching. I came up with that, became the subject of this poem. Dance like the whole world's watching. Suffer in the wind, cry in the shade, shudder in the lonesome, howl defiant as wolves, dance like the whole world's watching. Though the fascist tanks are rolling, though the breath of the wounded is at your throat, though the government of the meek is crumbling and the merchants of fear hold sway, and the marksman blinks Dance in your shoes, dance in your cars, dance at your spinning wheels. If we can't dance, it's not our revolution. If we can't sing our barbaric yawp, there is no song. Dance like horseshoe crabs in Walt Whitman's beard. Dance like William Blake, angel-headed at the baptismal font. Dance like a bluesman holding court in the unyielding cotton fields. Dance for the children of a failed God, for the postman, for the barber, for the thief. Dance for the orphans scraping at your door, and the tin pan gods and their false leaders who deceive us. Dance for naked prophets raked in by the millions from the mouths of the poor. Dance for the beggar at the corner, for the free man held captive at the illegal border, and the clowns and the idiots and the pretty women and men in their empty-hearted limousines. Some folks say we should dance like no one's looking. I say dance like the whole world's watching. Dance for lovers, losers at both ends of the leash. Dance for the freely addicted. Dance like your high life hangs at the balance, because it does. Dance like there's no tomorrow. For the lost and the unaccounted for the untold astronaut who left us here, for the rebel at the hangman's noose, for the put upon and faded, and the elevator operator and the street sweeper, for the unemployed, for the invisible and the falsely accused, for the anonymous helmsman whose hand is at the till. There are hearts yet to be kindled in the cold, dark night that surrounds us. There are souls of 10,000 nations yet to be liberated from their nests of shame. Dance. Thank you.
George Wallace. All right, what a great evening. Let's hear it for all 5 of our readers. Okay. Next week, we have the Thursday Morning Poets, and that's a group of Queens poets who apparently were able to get a visa and will be making their way here. They'll be sharing the stage. We'll have more the specific names and stuff later in the week. And tonight's winner is Doreen. $23. Next 4 get nothing, but maybe the big pot at the end of the year. Munchkin for Munchkin's birthday. There you go. Thank you. Let's see who else. Peter Dugan. 3. Munchkin again. Oh, you lucky dog. And finally, Herb Faust. So I want to thank everybody. I want to thank Wallace. I want to thank Keith Pearsall and the guys for setting up tonight. I want to thank all the ladies at the back table. I want to thank you all for coming out. And thank you again for everything, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you next week.